Hi, well here's a rare thing in the UK. An almost cloudless sky. So it's got to be done. I've got to get out on the bike. And what I'm going to do is to plough around Breeden Hill with the Git2 set at to record at 1080p at 60 frames a second. I'm looking forward to when these tests are over, to be honest, so I can forget about all these tech specs. And we'll see if it's got the oomph, we'll see if it's got the battery power and the space on the card to get around Breeden Hill, which happens to be exactly 25, almost exactly 25 miles from this spot. But I've got to stop at the gas station to get some gas, so I'll start off the camera there, and I'll turn off loop recording, and we'll see how far we get. Okay. Right, due to a little hoo-ha in the gas station, we are starting from the lay-by just before the turning in Breeden's Hardwick you take to get to the Northway. And we're just going to carry on until the camera stops. I also wanted to do going around Breeden Hill clockwise so that you can compare it to the P2 Plus trip around Breeden Hill, which is also in my feed, which I went round clockwise on. When I actually went to look for compatible files of P2 footage, P2 Plus footage in my archives, if you like, or collection, I in fact found very little because I'm sort of pretty ruthless about throwing everything away that I don't use for movies, which eventually get uploaded to YouTube, because you are looking at multiple gigabytes of data really these days, and oh yeah, I remember that outtake, and yeah, I've been quite ruthless, so I didn't actually have a lot. But I wanted to do this, and it's an absolutely gorgeous day, the best day this year. The sun is very strong this time of year, and of course, motorcycling in this weather is delicious. Okay, well, if you want to skip to the end to see how far I got, please go ahead. But if you want to have a look at, the British countryside and the ride around Breeden Hill, stay on board, because this is actually appreciably better footage from the Dasney, I think. And I'll see you at the end. Right, we're just coming up to the join between the two files, the two 4.25 gig files that are produced. And there's a jump, and it hasn't actually overlapped, it's actually dropped a couple of frames, which is another disadvantage of not having loop recording on there, you see. So I think what I'm going to do is switch loop recording back on, because it is handier. If you get back and there's an incident you want to find, you can just copy 5-minute files rather than these huge great ones over from the card onto the computer. And this, by the way, is a good indication of why I always take this corner very, very slowly. He only just fits in there, these coaches. It's school time, it's picking up from school time, so I'm being pretty steady on this trip because there's a load of coaches and mums around, trying to pick a time when there's no traffic around, which I was very fortunate to do in my initial Git footage. Is actually nearly impossible. And on holidays, bank holiday weekends, things like this whole route is crawling with people, walkers, and what have you. Anyway, I'll see you at the end. Okay, we're about to conk out. We're just coming into Breedon. So we got from the lay-by just before the turning to at Breedon's Hardwick to go to Northway. We got more or less all the way around Breedon Hill. This is probably about 20 miles, considering from my place it's 25, because I completely forgot to turn the camera on when I left the gas station. There was a bit of a hoo-ha at the gas station. So I had to pull into that lay-by to start it. But we got a fair way. But what's quite interesting is A, the file sizes, and B, the time that everything lasts. Because when I had a look in the camera at the files, A, there were two, and I was only expecting one. And they were both 4.25 gigs, which I suppose is there to keep them under the 5 gig limit. Sometimes when I'm copying files to other media, it won't do it unless it's under 5 gigs because of formatting or something. So I presume that's in there for that. But they were both absolutely identical size. They both lasted 15 minutes, 34 seconds. They were definitely 60 frames a second, and I definitely had loop recording turned off. So basically every 15 minutes, even if you've got loop recording turned off, the camera is going to produce another file after 15 minutes. It's going to shut one down and start another one. And also the duration. Right now the camera told me that at 1080p at 60 frames a second it was only going to last half an hour, and it almost got that exactly right because the files are both 1534, so they're both 6. It's just 31 minutes 8 seconds it lasted until it conked out. And of course another interesting thing is that the files are exactly the same size, so it can't have just gone on until the battery ran out. It must have done the first two files, decided it couldn't go on any longer and shut down. It couldn't produce another 5 gig file. I mean, is that right? I mean, how else would they be exactly the same size and exactly the same duration? It must stop, say there isn't enough battery left to produce another 5 gig file or 4.25 gig file. Therefore, we're going to shut it down now, and the battery it can't have fully drained unless it was, the mother and father of all coincidences, which obviously it wasn't. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, it looks like the camera isn't telling any lies. The figures that it gives you on the back for the expected recording time are correct, and it will only do half an hour at 1080p 60 frames a second, which isn't a lot really, but there we go. I think I'm going to have to knock it down to 30 frames a second, because the camera tells me then that it will last 1080p 30 frames a second. It will last for 2 hours 19 minutes, which is a lot more practical. Okay, well that's it. Thanks for listening.